According to Shincheonji, the number of 100,000 graduates was 106,186. Among them, 80,000 people were sitting at the Daegu Stadium in Korea, dressed as graduates. This means that the number of overseas graduates was 26,186. However, the number of overseas graduates provided by Shincheonji at the graduation ceremony was 43,030, not 26,186. In other words, it means that the number of Korean graduates was 63,156, not 80,000. That means that 16,844 were already fake graduates. In order to reveal the truth about the number of graduates, we must first confirm what we know. This is the number of overseas graduates.
Shincheonji introduced the number of overseas graduates in detail at this 100,000 graduation ceremony. 26,568 graduates from Asia, 1,158 from Oceania, 5,533 from America, 3,192 from Europe, and 6,579 African graduates. Altogether, that's 43,030. If you are familiar with the situation with Shincheonji overseas, 43,000 is a really staggering number. It's truly an unprecedented number. This is because at the end of 2019, there were only 22,478 official members of Shincheonji overseas. And at the end of 2019, there were only 31,849. In other words, there were 9,371 overseas students at the 2019 100,000 graduation ceremony. At that time, there was no COVID crisis, so it was a time when Shincheonji could freely evangelize abroad. However, the number of overseas members didn't exceed 10,000. In the meantime, as the pandemic began, evangelism in Shincheonji became difficult, and the number gradually decreased. During the online graduation ceremony for the 111th class in 2020, the number of overseas graduates wasn't disclosed at all. After the 112th online graduation ceremony in 2021, Cheonji Daily announced that the number of overseas graduates was 7,676. It was a smaller number than the 2019 100,000 graduation. Suddenly, it was announced that the number of graduates in 2022 was 43,030, which is more than the number of overseas Shincheonji that have gathered over the past 38 years. If that's true, either a truly great miracle had happened or Shincheonji is committing a rare lie. Is it a miracle or a lie? Those who want to know the truth must check everything themselves, not what other people say. So I myself counted the attendees one by one while watching videos of graduation ceremonies in all regions to see if the number of graduates by country that were announced by Shincheonji was really accurate. If the number of graduates is 10 should have attended the graduation ceremony. If not, the number is a lie. In Japan, the number of graduates was 686, but the numbers were really odd. This is because even with all the numbers shown in the Tokyo and Osaka videos, there were only about 150 attendees. Were the rest of the graduates and members watching online? I checked the number of real-time viewers of Japanese video during the graduation ceremony on November 20th, 2022. The number was 40. Even if the offline graduation ceremony attendees and online viewers were combined, the number was only about 190. As of the end of 2019, Shincheonji said the total number of members in Japan was 358. However, Shincheonji in Japan said that it would evangelize 686 people in 2022. If that's true, even excluding those who graduated in 2020 and 2021, the current number of members in Japan should be at least 1,044, which is the sum of 358 in 2019 and 686 in 2022. However, only about 190 people attended the graduation ceremony online and offline. This kind of lie, similar to Japan, continues to appear throughout the video of the graduation ceremony. The total number of graduates in Asia announced by Shincheonji was 26,568. As I said earlier, I counted graduates from all countries to see if those numbers were accurate. Nepal had 271 graduates, but the actual number was only 57. Taiwan 98, actual number 15. Lebanon 61, actual number 8. Malaysia 298, actual number about 60. Mongolia also had 3,151 graduates, but the actual number was only about 600. Myanmar 140, actual number 9. Sri Lanka 408, actual number about 200. Jordan 32, actual number 7. There were also 3,998 Indian graduates, but only about 600 actual attendees across 4 regions combined. Manivira, the last region, is a city in the Kerala region of southern India. This is where the Indian pastor who gave his testimony at the 100,000 graduation ceremony resides. Shincheonji members who attended the graduation ceremony would have been thrilled to see his testimony. He was introduced as bearing 294 evangelism fruits. Although it was announced that he had evangelized 294 people alone, the total number of graduates in the area was only about 80. Indonesia 296, actual number about 95. As described earlier, Japan had 686 graduates, about 150 attendees. Kazakhstan 46, actual number 27. Cambodia 26, actual number 21. Thailand 47, actual number about 20. Algeria 226, actual number about 100. There were 1,189 graduates in Pakistan, but the actual number was only about 150. The number of Filipino graduates was also 2,169, but there were only about 850 attendees from all 3 regions combined. Lastly, there was an area marked as other countries in the Asian region, and Shincheonji reported that there were 13,415 graduates. These are probably regions that cannot be disclosed, such as China, Singapore, or Vietnam, so there were no attendees here. Shincheonji reported that the total number of graduates in Asia was 26,568, but the actual number of attendees was only about 2,980. The total number of graduates in Oceania was 1,158. But here, as in Asia, actual attendance numbers varied widely. New Zealand 113, actual number about 70. Fiji 7, actual number 4. Although the number of Australian graduates was 1,016, only about 200 attended. At the end of 2019, the total number of members in Australia was 579. However, it's said that Shincheonji evangelized 1,016 people in 2022. But why were there only 200 people attending the graduation ceremony? The total number of graduates from Oceania announced by Shincheonji was 1,158, but the actual number of attendees was only 296. At the heart of the American continent is the United States. According to Shincheonji, the number of graduates in the US is 5,102. However, this number is really absurd. According to Shincheonji's official announcement, as of the end of 2019, the number of members in the US totaled 4,264. This means that 4,264 have been gathered for almost 30 years since Shincheonji's landing in the US in the early 1990s to 2019. But did they evangelize 5,102 people in 2022, more than the number gathered in the past 30 years? The answer to this question can be clearly seen in the US graduation ceremony video. A total of 5 tribes are active in the United States, and I was able to confirm the number of participants in all 5 tribes through the video of the graduation ceremony. First of all, in Jan tribe, about 400 people are in LA and about 220 people in Washington DC. In Thaddeus tribe, about 200 people in Chicago and about 100 people in New York. In Matthias tribe, about 120 people in Texas. In Simon tribe, about 180 people in Atlanta. And in Thomas tribe, about 130 members in San Francisco. Putting all these numbers together is about 1,350. It was said that there were 5,102 American graduates, but where did the other 3,752 go? Were they watching online? No. At the graduation ceremony on November 20th, 2022, when I checked the number of real-time viewers of the English graduation video was only 758. In addition, the number was the sum of the number of live broadcast viewers in English-speaking countries, not only in the United States, but also around the world, such as the United Kingdom, Australia, Africa, New Zealand, and the Netherlands. Colombia said the number of graduates was 275, but the actual number of attendees was about 65. Canada had similar numbers of graduates and attendees. The Americas had some interesting things that made it different from other continents. Attendance far exceeded the number of graduates in all countries except the United States, Colombia, and Canada. The number of attendees is inflated to appear much higher than the number they say. Guatemala had 66 graduates, but the actual number was about 80. Mexico 1, actual number about 70. Suriname 1, actual number about 30. Haiti 4, actual number about 30. El Salvador 17, actual number about 80. Jamaica 1, actual number about 35. Peru had 8 graduates, but the actual number was about 60. Basically, the whole of America was covered in false numbers. Most of this area is in charge of the Jan tribe, to which Shincheonji, LA belongs. At the 100 graduation ceremony in 2019, the LA evangelist said there are about 2,500 graduates behind me right now, but there were only about 400 or 500 people sitting behind her at the time. When I watched the video, I thought like, how could she tell such an obvious lie with such a smile? So I watched the video over and over again. Shincheonji reported that the total number of graduates in the Americas was 5,533, but the actual number of attendees was only about 1,858, even after adding up the inflated numbers. Next, let's look at the continent of Europe. The Netherlands had 108 graduates, but only 25 attended. Germany, like the United States, had inflated numbers. The number of German graduates was 1,117. As of the end of 2019, there are a total of 547 members in Germany, where 3 tribes are active. And like the United States, they also announced that 1,117 people graduated this time. But the actual number of attendees was only about 180 from Frankfurt, Essen, and Berlin. Maybe all the rest were online attendees? No, there were only 13 online viewers in Germany. Russia 221, actual number 63, shown on Zoom screen. Romania 83, actual number about 30. Switzerland 52, actual number about 80. Spain 104, actual number about 45. Ireland 5, actual number 29. United Kingdom 321, actual number around 200. Italy 46, actual number about 40. Georgia 16, actual number 12. Czech Republic 186, actual number about 60. Portugal 49, actual number 9. France 857, actual number about 120. Hungary 23, the actual number was about 35. The number of graduates from continental Europe announced by Shincheonji was 3,192, but the actual number of attendees was only about 932. Finally, let's look at the continent of Africa. Ghana 326, actual number about 30. Namibia 169, actual number about 100. South Africa 1,445, actual number about 300. Liberia 76, actual number about 50. Rwanda 27, actual number about 80. Madagascar 706, actual number about 200. Burundi 26, actual number about 48. Ethiopia 157, actual number about 55. Uganda had 1,559 graduates, but it was difficult for me to count the number of attendees, so I just went ahead and used that number. Egypt 16, actual number 4. Zambia 11, actual number 15. Central African Republic 31, actual number about 80. Cameroon 162, actual number about 35. Kenya 535, actual number about 250. Congo 1, actual number about 20. Democratic Republic of the Congo 577, actual number about 150. Tanzania 607, actual number about 110. Although the number of graduates from the African continent announced by Shincheonji was 6,579, the actual number of attendees was only about 3,234. Now let's put the whole number together. This table compares the total number of foreign graduates announced by Shincheonji at the 100,000 graduation ceremony in 2022 and the actual number of participants by country counted individually as above. The number of attendees is an approximate count of all attendees shown in the graduation ceremony video, and slight errors may occur. The red number in this table means that the number of attendees at the graduation ceremony is less than the number of graduates announced by Shincheonji. And the blue number means that the graduation ceremony attendance is inflated compared to the number of graduates announced by Shincheonji. That is, a number containing an imaginary number. So I return the numbers inflated in blue to the numbers originally announced by Shincheonji. In this way, the total number of overseas attendees added was around 8,802. However, there was one obscure part. This is because the number of graduation ceremony attendees from other countries, presumed to be China, Singapore, and Vietnam, was counted as 0. I also wanted to know the number of attendees in these countries, so I decided to put in my estimates for these countries with the same attendance rates as the rest. To do so, I needed to know the percentage of attendees in the rest of the country. First of all, I took away the number 13,415 marked as other countries from the 43,030 overseas graduates announced by Shincheonji. The number that came out was 29,615. So based on this number, I found that the attendance rate of overseas members was about 30%. Based on this, I estimated the actual number of attendees in other countries to be 4,024, which is 30% of the 13,415. In this way, the total number of attendees at the overseas graduation ceremony was recalculated and the total number was 12,826. And I assume that the same false numbers exist in the number of people attending the graduation ceremony in Korea, just like the number overseas. So I applied the same standard to the number in Korea. In this way, the actual number of graduates in Korea, calculated by applying 30% to the number of Korean graduates of 63,156, was 18,947. When you hear this calculation, you might laugh and say, "Stop talking nonsense." But these assumptions of mine are not just arbitrary nonsense. After the 100,000 graduation ceremony in 2022, a group leader who has been in Shincheonji for 12 years testified on the YouTube channel Shincheonji Apologetics that only 2 or 3 out of 10 Korean graduates were real graduates. Let's listen to her testimony. I have been a believer in Shincheonji for 12 years now, and now I'm a young adult who is serving as a group leader. For example, if there are 10 graduates, except for 2 or 3, you can consider them existing church members. Actually, there is a sister who was a member of my group, and they put a graduate gown on her as well, and pretended that she was also a graduate. So I was so shocked by this. In fact, not only this time, but last year or the year before that, when we held the 100,000 graduation ceremony, the existing members of Shincheonji actually wore graduation gowns and pretended to be graduates. That's why I thought that there should be no more such atrocities to deceive God and the people. So I decided to expose this. Based on her testimony, we can assume that only about 2 or 30% of the total number were genuine graduates. A Shincheonji member left a comment on this video. Did you know that overseas graduates didn't come? We were not cheating. Listen to both sides. It's your fault if we don't know. But if you report something that isn't true, it's a lie. I don't want to write a comment, but I feel sorry for both the informant and the person posting this report. So I'm writing a few words. It means that Korean members attended as overseas graduates because foreign graduates couldn't attend. However, what this member didn't know was that overseas members had already inflated the number, and like the Korean members, were filling it up by attending as fake graduates. It means that official members in Korea and abroad who have already graduated have repeatedly attended as fake graduates, thinking that they are replacing graduates who couldn't attend. Now let's see the final number of graduates of the 2022 100,000 graduation ceremony that I calculated. The number was 31,773. I was very interested in these numbers because this number was too close to the actual number of people increased in 2019 announced by Shincheonji in January 2020 after the 100,000 graduation ceremony in 2019. Shincheonji said that the number of 100,000 graduates in 2019 was 103,764. However, the actual increase in 2019 announced at the regular general meeting in January 2020 was only 36,454. The number of the 2022 100,000 graduation ceremony was 106,186, but the actual number I calculated is 31,773. It seems that these two 100,000 graduation ceremonies are very similar. By the way, I don't actually believe this number either. In fact, I think only 1/3 of this number is real. The reason why I think so is easy to understand if you check the numbers Shincheonji has shown so far. At the end of 2018, Shincheonji announced that the number of members was 202,899 and the number of graduates in 2019 was 103,764. 18,382 graduates in 2020, 18,838 graduates in 2021, and the number of graduates in 2022 is 106,186. If so, the current number of Shincheonji members should be at least 450,069. 450,069. What an amazing number, right? However, in episode 1, real-time viewers, I calculated the total number of attendees for the online and offline graduation ceremony was only 142,267. In other words, the number of active members of Shincheonji worldwide is less than 1/3 of the 450,069 that Shincheonji should present. Shincheonji is now in a hell of numbers. They want to show you the numbers as evidence that the physical fulfillment has happened. But what if those numbers are not true? The answer to this question must be presented by yourself. Please check for yourself the exact truth of Shincheonji, which has fallen into the hell of numbers. How can you check? The way to check is surprisingly simple because you yourself are the proof of that reality. You all saw and heard everything at the graduation ceremony. That's why you have to find a reasonable answer for yourself as to why you and your friends had to sit there wearing fake graduation gowns. If you cannot find the answer, you will never get out of that hell.